We got the beat, we got the beat. Yeah, we got the beat. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna need to do is go over the seeds that we're gonna need. So like I said before, we're gonna be using two different types of beets. So for this, I have my Detroit mix and I have my bull's blood. So whenever it comes to picking out your types of seeds that you want to do on a single tray, you want to pick 2 or 3 crops that grow at the same rate. Because if they don't grow at the same rate, you're going to get a very wonky tray and you may not see as good of germination across the whole thing. So I picked 2 that go together. So first thing that we're going to do here is set those aside. Okay, so let's go over the trays real quick. So over here, I have my 3 trays set up. One of them being a no-hold 1020, which is going to be used to house our bottom water whenever we get to that point. Next is going to be a 1020 that has slits in it, or you can use a mesh tray if that's what you prefer. I just prefer this for whenever I'm using the Grow Medium Coco Coir. And then last, we're going to need our top tray, which is another no-hold tray. So this tray will be used to hold your weight and then later flip over so that way you can put them into blackout. So let me go ahead and set this one away because I already have a tray next to me, which I went ahead and pre-filled. So I'm using the medium coco coir, and for this, because beets, we put them under a layer of cocoa, I only filled my tray up part way. As you can see here by just looking at the sides of the tray, it's not filled up all the way. So you also want to make sure that you get this nice and even and get out any clumps. So now let's go ahead and move on to our seeds. So I know usually if I'm doing 1 tray of beets, I use 25 grams of seed. So since I'm using 2 different varieties, I'm gonna do 12.5 of one and 12.5 of the other. So let me go ahead and get those weighed out. So now I have my Detroit mix weighed out to 12.5 grams. And what I'm gonna do is, I like to kind of just draw a slight line. I don't put a big indentation, but that way whenever I'm doing a tray that has multiple varieties, I kind of know where my cutoff point is and I don't go over, because sometimes it's just easy to do that. So let's go ahead and get these put on here. I'm actually gonna pour some in my hand, it's a lot easier. I'll just kind of get this all laid out. Doing a mixed tray is actually really good if you're a home grower, because you're able to do multiple varieties at once, and that way you're not taking as much of your space up, and you can really enjoy both of them and not have to do full trays, because sometimes that can be a lot of product in the end. So now I'm going to go ahead and weigh out my bull's blood to 12.5 as well, and we can now seed the other side of the tray. So you just want to do the same thing that we did on the other side. I'm going to try not to cross my little line there either. Keep it all to this one side. You can very slightly tell the difference in the seeds too. Our Detroit mix seeds are a little bit bigger than our bull's blood. So now that I've done the seeding of the tray, we are going to take some more cocoa and put it on top of this. So I'm gonna move this back to where my setup usually is. Kind of pile it on here real quick. I think I need a little bit more. That should be good. So now, any big clumps like this, just try to break them apart. And then start kind of spreading that out on top of the seed. And you want to fill it up basically to the top line of the tray or just barely below that. You don't want it to be overflowing. Okay, just tiny bit more, and then we are done with this part. Okay, so now that I have gotten all the seeds covered, what I'm going to do is very, very lightly push this down. I'm really not doing a whole lot of pressure because you still want them to be able to break through this. You just want them to have this kind of pushed down to help get those seed holes off. Okay, so now the very last part is take your mister. We have ours connected to this hose, which is connected to our sink. So now I'm going to give this a nice good mist across the whole top of it. Make sure it's pretty saturated, but not to where it's puddling up or dripping through the bottom. Okay, and that should be pretty good. Lastly, just take your tray, put it right on top like this, give it a nice little push, and place it somewhere so that way it can germinate. So I'm just gonna set that there for now. So now all I'm going to do is mix this twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. So I'll see you guys in a few days whenever we flip that into blackout. Today is day 4 of our double beet mix. So let's pull this off of the shelf and let's take a look at what's going on underneath this tray. Look at that germination. Right away, I'm noticing that the germination across this entire tray is looking awesome. Though I would say that our Detroit mix is quite a bit ahead of our Bull's Blood mix. That is perfectly okay. Sometimes what happens whenever you're using 2 different varieties of seeds, even if they are the same kind of seed, they may not germinate at the same rate. Since the side is already at the perfect height, we're going to be introducing this into light. If I were to let this go under blackout for any longer, this side would get super lanky and we do not want that. Now let's go ahead and get this placed on the shelf and add some water to it. I will be starting this off with about half a cup of water today, and over the next few days I'm going to slowly amp that up as I need it, and we will be watering this twice a day. I'll see you guys on harvest day. Today is day 13 of our double beet tray. And it is harvest day. That means that we made it through this grow. Right away, I'm noticing that we did amazing on this. We are seeing no seed holes on either side of this. And you may have noticed that there is a slight difference in height. That is perfectly okay because this is 2 different types of beets. This side being our Detroit mix, it just tends to grow a little bit more taller than our side over here, which is our Bull's Blood. But nonetheless, everything is looking perfectly, and we are starting to see the true leaf coming out, which means today is the day to harvest these. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, let's go over the supplies we're going to need for that. Here next to me, I just have my plate. That way I can later show you guys the appearance of both of these, and we'll just ignore those little dots. Those are from a lighting test that we recently did, and that way we can kind of tell the colors of the different crops there. But onto this. Over here I have my knife, which is probably the best knife we have ever used. This thing just glides right through all the crops we put it through, even with peas. I was actually pretty shocked with that because peas can fight you sometimes, and this did a great job with cutting those. Next, I have my area where I'm going to be weighing this and also harvesting into. So I have my bowl, which is holding my bag, which is on top of my scale. So now let's turn that on and make sure that it zeroes out. Perfect. Now on to the fun part, which is harvesting. And you shouldn't dance with a knife in your hand. Dangerous. So actually, first thing, let me move my sleeves out of this. And now I'm just going to lightly grab this, and we're starting with our Detroit mix side. Okay, let's just take a peek at this. I love how the Detroit mix looks because you get all these different colors, which is just absolutely beautiful. And combined with our Bull's Blood, it's going to be even prettier. So let's drop that in there. I really, really love beets. We have finished harvesting our Detroit mix side, and we are now over at our Bull's Blood side. What I'm going to do very quickly before I get into harvesting this side is I'm just going to pull a couple out of my bag from the Detroit mix, and we're going to set that aside. And right now, there we go. That should be a good mix of those. And that way we can take a closer look at those in a minute. All right, so now we are on our Bull's Blood side. Once again, it looks like we got really, really good germination. And here's the beautiful thing about Bull's Blood. It has those deep reds throughout the whole stem, and even on the underside of the leaf, it has a nice red tone. Gorgeous. So you may notice that I'm trying not to harvest too terribly low because I don't want to get that medium mixed in there. Trying to just get the stems. Almost done here. The final swoop. Looks like we have 156 grams, and that is 5.5 ounces. Now let me go ahead and pull a little bit of that bull's blood out of here. I'm gonna get a good little group, and we will set these aside. It's hard to get a perfectly pretty group because they tend to stick to each other a lot. But here's like a little bouquet of them. Now look at all that coloration from both of these beads. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can see here that there's that red tone underneath compared to that side, which doesn't have as much red. It's a lot less on the Detroit mix than it is on Bull's Blood. And these two combine, which, here we go, let's just go ahead and mix them around a little bit. It just makes a beautiful rainbow of colors. And I think that is such a great thing about doing mixed trays like this, especially if you're a home grower, because you're able to grow these two different crops together and you get to enjoy them either all at once, or you can take your time and work at one side of the tray and then go to the other if that's what you want. Now I want to go back over to our plate, and I'm gonna go microgreen monsters, I'm gonna call it. Not quite the Cookie Monster because we don't have cookies here, but we're going to munch down on these and see how the flavor is. So there's some for CJ and a little bit for me. I love beets. I love beets. I love Swiss chard. That earthy flavor to me is just amazing. Our entire grow for this whole thing just turned out perfectly. We had both sides with great germination. The coloration was perfect. The height was perfect. And the flavor was exactly where I wanted it to be. There is a lot of vitamins within beets. So I have a little list here. I'm going to read that off for you. In beets, there are vitamins A, B, C, E, and K. There's also calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, zinc, and protein. That's a lot of stuff mixed into these little greens. Not only is this crop absolutely gorgeous, but it has a ton of vitamins. I cannot wait to take what we harvested today and put this on top of either my stir fries I might do for dinner or even rice dishes. I love how beets and Swiss chard taste with rice. I am extremely happy with how this grow turned out, and there's actually nothing that I would change about it. I think we did everything perfectly, and the overall crop in the end was exactly where we wanted it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my knife aside, get that cleaned up, and as for this medium, we're going to toss this out into our compost pile, and we like to use that in our outdoor gardens. We never bring this back into our grow space just because the potential for a pathogen to be mixed into the soil for microgreens is just way too high for us. Do you guys want to take a peek at the roots real quick? Because all you got to do is you just kind of pull the medium up and it becomes this little mat, and you can just see all that root structure. And the cool thing about beets is they actually have red in their root structures as well. I feel like that's something that people don't really look at a whole lot, but I feel like the roots of the plants are also just as beautiful as the microgreen themselves. So that is it for this video. I am extremely happy with how this turned out, and I hope that it turns out just as perfect for you guys. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Also, we have a Facebook and an Instagram that are both at On The Grow Farms, and we have a website that has a ton of great information, which we're actually working on updating our growing guide section, so hopefully soon we'll have that too. But that is www.onthegrow.net. Thank you all for the support, and keep on believing.